STMK Radio 100.
At the Table with Reverend Bill Miller on STMK Radio 100. Check out Reverend Bill Miller's Bible study radio broadcast live on the new STMK Radio 100 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please listen in and support him as he joins the realm of broadcasting to encourage believers and offer the comfort of God to others across the airwaves. At the Table with Reverend Bill Miller on STMK Radio 100. Also, feel free to contact him for prayer, counseling, and conversation at brobill9608@yahoo.com. That's BROBILL9608@yahoo.com. At the Table with Reverend Bill Miller on STMK Radio 100.
STMK Radio 100. You're listening to Stop the Madness, Keep It 100 with your hosts, Sean L., Let, and Tone the Stone on STMK Radio 100.
Yes, this is a PSA, a public street announcement. You are now listening to a Kickback production. Light up your L's, lean back, and listen.
A lot of our young people are fearful to even come outside. The shooting, the killing. 5, 6, 7-year-olds, they're losing people that they love and care about.
My god brother, my cousin, my uncle, my brother.
In Chicago's violence-plagued South Side, even boxcars pose a threat.
We're already dealing with the consequences of individuals who are shooting individuals on a daily basis. And now to have illegal guns stolen and end up on our streets, it only compounds the issues that we're dealing with every single day.
Pastor Corey Brooks' church is a stone's throw from a Norfolk Southern rail yard. Razor wire once separated the church basketball court from the 63rd Street rail yard, but even that has long since rusted and fallen away. Police say street gangs have found the train's easy pickings to plunder guns.
The opportunities present themselves over and over every single day.
In 2015, a group broke into the yard and stumbled upon a gun goldmine, more than 100 brand new firearms inside a freight car en route to the West Coast.
They park their train cars often in rail yards that happen to be in high crime areas in the city, and that in and of itself presents a problem to law enforcement.
Retired alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agent Thomas Ahern says an old industry adage is a big factor. Cargo at rest is cargo at risk.
Unfortunately, it's very easy for thieves to break into these train cars.
While guns have been stolen from other rail yards in the country, there have been 3 major gun thefts here in recent years. Court and arrest records show days after the 2015 theft, police found some of those handguns in traffic stops and drug raids. Another was used in a January 2016 shooting, one of 3,500 shootings last year. Most of the stolen guns have never been recovered.
And so we have to say something. We have to do our part to make sure that they take full responsibility, because it is their responsibility and theirs alone.
In a statement to the Associated Press, a Norfolk Southern Rail Yard spokesperson said the company is, quote, doing everything within our power to prevent thefts. That includes more patrols and guard dogs, but it didn't offer any details on security upgrades. Pastor Brooks says the company needs to do more.
The fact that the railway is not responding speaks volumes. What it really says is that we don't care.
He and other residents question whether there would be more urgency if the yard was in an affluent area.
In the city's most dangerous neighborhood of Inglewood, brazen criminals occasionally hit a gangster's jackpot, shiny new guns in transit inside a sitting train car.
Anytime you have individuals who are able to go into a rail yard and steal guns from a train, that makes the environment very toxic.
The ATF says since 2013, more than 150 guns were stolen from freight trains. In one instance, thieves got their hands on more than 100 new Rugers. Some were traced to violent crimes, only a handful recovered.
How in the world are these kids getting all these guns? And I see them on Facebook. I see them, everybody got guns. They can't go purchase a gun, so where are they getting them from?
In a city where thousands of guns are recovered every year, 150 guns might not seem like a concern. But the ATF says a single gun in Chicago can be linked to a staggering 14 deadly shootings. Critics argue the Norfolk Southern Railway is to blame, saying it could increase security to protect the freight. And there are concerns for even worse scenarios.
We need to be concerned about terrorists who can get into these areas unprotected and steal explosive and things that could very well damage our communities.
Trying to keep guns out of the hands of criminals in one of America's deadliest neighborhoods.
It only compounds the damage that is being done to our city.
Norfolk Southern says it's increasing its surveillance, K-9 units, and confidential security measures around its most targeted rail yard.
It was request 5 years of Chicago police records, which showed trains overnighting in Chicago were hit 400 times. As a state senator told us, the trains are easy pickings because they sit unwatched for a whole day waiting to leave cross country.
24 hours. 24 hours to pass through Chicago. So a lot of times these trains are sitting in high crime neighborhoods, you know, just a potential target to get broken into.
Hey, welcome, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Michael Wilkins in the class from the University of Southern California. We'd like to welcome you here with us. And yes, Michael Wilkins, you did win your bet, but Saxman will be on the telephone with us. What's up, Tone the Stone? Tone.
What's up, Sean? What's up, everybody?
Hey, Tone, you know, if you listen to that, man, that was really, really deep, especially what happened here Friday in the city of Cleveland with the 5 teenagers and the 2 adults now that we know that open up with weapons, 16, 14 years old in the city of Cleveland. This should be a wake-up call for everybody. Okay, the police cannot handle this situation. Okay, it's time for the community. The activists are going to have to step up now. Okay.
Well, they definitely. I mean, the police ain't been able to handle it for a long time, and you know, I don't want to say that the train robbery is any indication that, you know, is anything different. This has been going on for a long time.
Yes, it has.
It's so, I mean, it's, like you said, it's going to take the community to
the community. The police can't do it because everybody's talking about stop and frisk. All stop and frisk is going to do is embroil the situation, okay? Because I got some staggering statistics, and I want everybody to know this. Facebook Live, what's up, Michael Ware? Hey, thank y'all all for being with us. We back from our vacation, and I'd like to welcome without further ado, our 5 extra cities that picked us up. Now we're here in 22 cities. Philadelphia Internet Radio Community. The TRO streaming radio from Memphis, Tennessee. Hey, welcome, Memphis. I'm glad that we right there with you. Virginia radio station live and internet radio from the West Midlands. And right here in the state of Ohio, Cincinnati, 700 RRW Live. Thank you for joining the Facebook family. Thank you for joining Stop the Madness, Keep It 100. And thank you for coming in with STMK Radio 100. Now, tell me what I was saying. Staggering statistics right here, okay? We went out with the railroad police, and this is something that everybody don't know right here. The railroad thefts are taking place mainly because railroad cars being left on the side of the road, or what I want to say, they call it sleeping cargo. Well, one thing that he told me was sleeping cargo is at-risk cargo, and at-risk cargo is stolen cargo, and this has been going on for years.
There's no way you can stop it either. I mean,
no, there's
no way you can stop it. The thieves are going to steal.
Wait, man, there's a way to stop the guns. There's a way to stop the guns.
Now with the guns,
stolen.
a train full of guns shouldn't be left unattended no matter what. There should be paid security guards with that cargo, stuff like that all the way through.
And this is the problem that we have, because I went out. We promised that we wouldn't name the department we went out with, but for the railroad police, the local police has no idea what's going on. Okay, they're parking cars right now, and I can tell you right outside Garden Valley Projects, right, throw away, a fence that my 5-year-old can go under or come between. It has been rusted out and gone. And what I've been told is that the majority of the people that's breaking into those railroad cars are looking for Nikes, screen TVs, washing machines, rims. Now that they know guns are there, it's more prevalent.
Right.
Okay. You're talking about in Chicago alone, the records from Chicago alone, sitting cargo has been hit over 400 times. Okay. And you're talking about guns now. We're talking about guns that factories are shipping, and they're doing what is known as storage shipping. Okay. Where they know if the cargo get broke into, the insurance company has to pay them for the full Chicago load. We talked to Norfolk Southern; they're responsible for the missing cargo. Period.
Right.
Some loads won't even be accepted. Okay, and that's something that is really crazy. That we're going to bring it back home, because what I found out is that these trains are resting in high crime neighborhoods. Okay, that may be the problem in the start, especially with the guns on the train. But this isn't an urban city problem, and this is going to tie into what we're going to talk about in our second hour of the FBI report of Black Extremists likely to target law enforcement officers. That's a very serious report that we're going to get into that report, because there's a lot of flaws in that report. And there's a lot of things that's not going on, because right here in this situation, this is why we tied them both together, is that Mr. Black needs to be here, because this. Remember we talked about sovereign citizens.
Yeah.
Okay, in Montana, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, sovereign citizens are breaking into railroad cars and stealing weapons. And they're stealing military-grade weapons because the federal government is shipping guns unattended across railways.
And those are calculated robberies. Like this stuff in Chicago, these guys just got lucky. But those people out there, they know what they're doing.
Right.
They know what they're going to get.
And we asked Norfolk Southern about this, okay? And we got a thing, because I want you to know this also, is that the federal government, the DOJ, the FBI, okay, and the ATF has asked your local police departments and mayors not to say anything about it, because if they say anything about it, it's going to expose the flaws within the rail yards, okay? And I think that's where the problem's at right here, and I think that's what's wrong, okay? The federal government and the mayor and the chief of police and them, they should be yelling at the top of their lungs.
Yeah. I mean, like I said a few minutes ago, there's no reason that any cargo like guns or any type of explosive. I remember those back in Jesse James and all those days when they were robbing banks in the movies. You know, in the movies, those dudes who were transparent, the robber barons or the people who made their fortune off of the train. When the trains came around,
right?
When Jesse James and them were robbing, those trains were well guarded.
Right, the Pinkerton mans. They put the Pinkerton mans
They
on them.
had protection. And Jesse James and they were still robbing them. Why don't these trains with guns on them have armed guards from point A to point Z?
Well, that's the problem right there. And this is why every police officer, and I'm going to say this about police officers and their unions, because we talked to some. Every police officer need to be yelling, because not even in Chicago, we're talking about Atlanta, Detroit, Cleveland, L.A., Houston, down in Florida, Mississippi. We're talking about dangerous inner city areas where guns are being stolen and brought on the street. 100 guns, okay, with ammo, not just the guns and the ammo, okay. At some point in time, they're going to be turned on law enforcement officers, if they're already not turned on law enforcement officers, okay? The ATF won't tell us that they're stealing guns, and then they won't tell us where the guns come from when they recover the guns. I think it's going to take something like what Obama got tied up into with Bush, Fast and Furious, okay, where somebody whose loved one get killed by a weapon finds out, hey, this weapon was stolen off a train, or the ATF didn't report it, or this was thing to get it out there, okay?
Right.
Because no way that Norfolk Southern should be shipping guns and dropping that car off on the back of Garden Valley projects.
True. Well, I mean, without armed security,
right?
You know,
right.
with it the whole way through.
And,
you know,
and their security is outrageous because one railroad police officer covers from Cleveland to Buffalo.
But also, I want to say that I don't know if it's necessarily Norfolk Southern or the train company's, responsibility. Whoever's tasking them to ship that stuff, when it's guns and stuff like that, they should be providing.
Well, I'm going to tell you who responsibility it is, because we went through that. It's Norfolk Southern or Conrail's responsibility for all freight on their rails. Okay.
But what I read is that they don't worry about it because their insurance is
they get
lovely.
millions, right? See,
their insurance is lovely.
This is the problem right here. They willing to trade off someone being killed in their inner city, or someone being killed in the suburbs. Because what everybody has to understand, this is not a Cleveland problem, okay? If somebody get a gun, as you already know, Beechwood, people getting robbed right outside Beechwood Mall. People getting robbed outside Strongsville Mall. People getting robbed in their driveways in Rocky River. This is not a black-white issue, because you got white gangs stealing guns off of railroad tracks on the west side. You got black gangs stealing railroad. You got kids doing it now, because everybody's going up there now, like at Garden Valley Projects. Oh, we can get free Nikes, okay? And they can get free Nikes, okay? Because with a railroad police officer, he took me up there and showed me just how easy it is. It's like walking out your back door, okay? Once that train uncouples, they gone, and it sits there, okay? It sits there until a train coming to go west and stop and pull that section off and pull them cars off until there. That train may sit there 24 hours, 48 hours. In the city of Cleveland, Conrail does it even a different way, but it still is not secure, because they take the containers and take them to container yards. And you, in this area alone, in North Collinwood area alone, you got 22 container drop areas off Eddie Road, 140th, back up on 200, right there on Waterloo. I mean, you got them everywhere, okay? Unsecured, left open, okay? And the rail yard says once that container leaves Conrail's property, they're not responsible for it, okay? They're responsible for whoever's shipping it is responsible where they put it up and until it goes back on the train. So what I want to look at is here, we talked to some public officials about this, Tone, and this is staggering. I want you to know this. The Chicago area alone became a hot spot for gun thieves, okay? Over the past few years, starting in May 2014, they have gotten over 600 AR-15s with all the ammunition, okay? In the chat room, we got people from Chicago. We got people right here from Atlanta. Saxman is in the chat room. What's up, Saxman? It's good to see you. And I want to say this, talking with the rail yard officials telling us that this is not a inside job. And the FBI is saying it's not an inside job also. And this is what's going back into the second hour. We're going to talk about Tone Stone, is because now with the gang members and youth being well armed, okay, now anybody that goes out for protest or whatever is being targeted. Okay, and we're going to talk about that the second hour. And we wish we had Saxman in studio so we can talk about this, because we really wanted to hear the law enforcement in part of it, especially with that report coming out. But the 63rd Street Steel Yard right there in Chicago is at a church, and this pastor's been yelling for years. It got so bad, and I want everybody to know this, that one gang in Chicago hit a train, a boxcar, and it was all full of weapons and ammunition. They had to go make a truce with the other gang just to steal what they want.
Right.
Okay? That's how many guns it was. So you got two gangs saying, okay, we're going to do a truce here, and we're going to take this equipment, and we're going to do all this. And they get it so they can get it off. And it's crazy that nobody's yelling. Because as I said before, if you take the incident in the city of Cleveland Friday, where 5, 14, 15, and 16-year-old youths, okay, and I got a problem. I got a really serious problem with this, because I watched our city watch 5, 14, 16, 17, I ain't even going to go to 17, but the 14 and 15-year-olds walk down a city street and shoot over 40 rounds. And they kept going like nothing ever happened. I seen black on black crime. I seen peace in the hood out there. They only had 20 people out there protesting, okay? Now, this is the problem that everybody needs to understand, that is when the community don't get involved and the community don't come out and say enough is enough, there's not enough police officers in the world that can stop this problem, okay? And the police officers should be yelling, because at some point in time, one of those AR-15 with a bunk stop, which is all, you might as well say an automatic 222 weapon, okay, it's going to come up against a zone car. And them officers in that zone car is outgunned. That whole district may have a problem, okay? And at what point in time we have seen a police officer, Derek Owens, got killed by a youth who was running and turned around and shot at him and decided he was going to shoot at the police. What's going to happen when a police officer pull up on 5 youths and all 5 of them got guns and they decide they're going to shoot, just like they just did and killed the boy, okay? They got another kid sitting in the hospital with a bullet wound in his head, okay? The city should be outraged, okay? They should be standing right now downtown at City Hall, and I don't want to hear the mayor come out and talk. I don't want to see Chief Williams no more, okay? I'm going to tell everybody right now, why are we looking at Chief Williams when we paying a safety director over $100,000 a year? I want to see McGrath sit there and tell us what the safety department is going to do. I want to hear McGrath hold Chief Williams' foot to the fire.
You know what? I don't know what they can do. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've tried everything in their power. So what I'm trying to say is there's not really anything they can do. I read an article, I don't know, maybe 2-3 days ago, about some man, old man, a millionaire in Florida. He took his own personal fortune and he started sending kids to school, college, giving people jobs. He cut the crime rate in his neighborhood, or in that neighborhood. He didn't live in that neighborhood. He cut the crime rate in that neighborhood in half, you know, by providing people opportunity.
Right.
Like that's the only thing that's going to stop it. You know, as long as these youth are out here frustrated and mad and angry and full of rage, and they're getting their hands on these weapons, that there's nothing the police or no politician can do to stop it but provide opportunity.
And that's what we want to talk about right there. I'm glad you brought that down, because you have to look at this. If the community, one, I said, have to get involved. And then we have to address the root cause of the problem. Poor schools, no jobs, poor housing, okay? Our kids not being taught early enough to avoid crimes and gangs, okay? We have to go back into, what was that, the 80s, when we went into the kindergarten and started teaching kids to say no to drugs, stranger dangers. And we have to put our police officers back in schools for the DARE program. I mean, seriously, we have to bring the DARE program back, okay? If they don't do anything, they have to bring the DARE program back and put those officers back into the schools and start building these relationships over with these kids and letting them know that the gang members are not the ones running everything. And as you just said, our youth have to look forward to tomorrow. Okay, we went out when Damian Parker got into the thing, remember? And we talked to the youths out there in the playground and everything. And the first thing that they was telling us was they was living for today. Okay, and I understand that because what you have to look at is when our youths are living for today, there is no outlook for tomorrow. They don't even look at they're thinking about surviving tonight. Okay, that tomorrow hasn't even came on their mind yet unless they survive tonight. Then they start all over the cycle again. And that's no way for our kids to be. The black men have to step up, okay? This isn't a problem that you can wait for somebody else to come into the neighborhood to take care of. I'm going to say this, and it goes back to what we're going to talk about the second hour is we may have to go back to the Black Panthers and the Black Nationals way of thinking when Almond Evans and them was here, okay, where we may have to arm ourselves up and go out into our own community and police our own community and run the police out, okay? In Texas, they're doing that, okay? If you go to the Stop at 100, STMK Radio 100 Facebook page, everybody went out there. Texas are doing that, okay? Our problem is that during the crack era, and this is the problem that I want everybody to understand this. During the 80s and the crack epidemic, we tried law enforcement, and it failed miserably. It came up with mass incarceration. It came up with a lot of deaths. It came up with people that had bad drug problems being left behind, and it came up with babies having babies, babies being left by themselves, babies being put into the systems. We probably made half of the criminals and hardcore people today had we took the time like they're trying to do with the opiate crisis. Maybe these kids wouldn't be in the situation they're in right now. So we have to take a step back and go back, Tone. And when we go back, we have to look at two things at this point. We have to create once a safe environment. So it goes back to the village, okay? And that safe environment is that we have to train, go into the schools, get our young black men. We have to train them to be law enforcement officers. Cleveland has a great program with their Explorer program. That's how a lot of people started, the FPO program and all that. Train them to come in and give them a future, okay? Just like into the military, okay? What happens if we go to war? Everybody keep thinking, China going to lay over for North Korea, but if we go to war, what are these guys in the Army going to do? They're going to do another 20 tours by themselves again? Look at nobody's going into the military, so they're going to do another 20 tours, okay? Everybody doesn't understand where our downfall is. And if you live in Rocky River or if you live back, and I'm going to say this in the chat room, everybody talking about it's the Clinton administration. No, it's not the Clinton administration. It's the same thing that is happening.
Every administration.
Right. It's the same thing that's happening now.
It's every administration. Right. If that one rich man can single-handedly cut the crime rate of a neighborhood, a crime-plagued neighborhood, if he can cut it in half by himself, then there's no excuse for the governments, for any administration to not be able to use these resources that they preside over to make these same sorts of changes and putting them in effect across the nation. And I also want to hold like rich, wealthy people, all these wealthy celebrities, these sports stars, these rappers, movie stars, whoever, these millionaires. Because this guy was white, by the way. He was white and he went into a poor colored community and did this. So all these rich rappers and everybody, if you're not going back to your neighborhood and buying up all these abandoned properties and putting businesses in them, and giving these kids scholarships, then you part of the problem. You talking about the community taking responsibility for themselves. That's what it's going to take.
And it's going to bring it back, because you have to look at this, and I want to say this. We're in the same position today, and I'm going to say this because that's all I've been hearing all week. Bring in the police, stop and frisk. That's the same thing that black leaders back in the 80s was asking Clinton to do. Clinton only did what they was asked to do. His wife had to pay the price for it, but our leaders asked for that. So right now, there's no way you can arrest yourself out of this problem, okay? And this is going to be a deadly problem. So I'm telling the community right now, as I told them in the town halls, okay, if you do not sit down and make priorities of how we're going to address this problem, this is what's going to happen. If you send the police in, it's going to be a deadly problem. Guns, police, kids, do not mix. Okay? No way around it. So the community's going to have to ask themselves right now, East Cleveland, everybody else got to ask themselves right now, if we're going to put this responsibility on our police officers, then we're going to have to back them 100%. There's no leeway in this one, okay? That means whatever happens, the community is going to step off and back their police department 100%. If you're not going to do that and you don't feel that's the way, then don't put the police officers in there, because I'm telling you right now, guns, gangs, and kids do not mix. I want to bring some stats up for somebody in the chat room talking about stop and frisk situation right here. New York stop and frisk 1 was ruled to be unconstitutional, okay? And the reason it was found unconstitutional because it was not being applied properly in the city of New York, okay? You can put 100 police officers in a high crime area, okay? Guess what? Out of the stop and frisk, out of New York did over 9,000 searches, okay? And out of those 9,000 searches, 96% of those searches turned up nothing, and the people they stopped committed no crimes or was doing nothing wrong, okay? That's why the judge ruled it unconstitutional. They wasn't getting weapons like that. And the question I'm going to tell the person in the chat room that asked about that.
I don't mean to cut you off, Sean, but that means it was unproductive or it was ineffective. It was unconstitutional because I guarantee you the majority of those people they were stopping were black and brown people. That's why it was unconstitutional.
There you go, right there, right? Because that's what's going to happen if you put them in a high crime neighborhood. Okay, and this is the question I'm going to ask everybody right now: Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and everything else. Okay, stop and frisk is not the same thing as the Terry search in the chat room. Terry search is when a police officer has a like, say they're downtown, we got buildings being broke into every night, and at 3 o'clock in the morning I see somebody down there that shouldn't be down there. A Terry search tells a police officer he has the right to walk up on a person and check them because he has probable cause that either a crime was committed or is about to be committed or have been committed, and he can come back and say we had 14 stores broken into, as Terry did in the Cleveland Police Department, and he searched the guy for his protection. That's what a Terry search is. A policeman doing interrogations with an individual, and he has the right to pat that individual down, a pat down, not a search, it's a pat down to ensure his safety, okay? A stop and frisk is just that. I stop Tone because he go walking down the street, and I search Tone, okay? I'm not frisking Tone, I'm searching him. I'm going through his pockets, I'm making him pull his shoes off, and I'm going in his underwear. That is not a Terry stop. So everybody don't get those confused, okay? Yes, a police officer pulls up on a person standing out at a bus stop where women being robbed and everything. He has the right to check that person, and he has the right to pat that person down for his personal safety. But he does not have the right, nor do you have the right to pull up on a corner with a bunch of young drug boys standing there and go through their pockets, pull their underwear down, make them take their shoes off. That's a violation of the 4th, 7th, 14th Amendment, unreasonable search and seizures, okay? So you have to know the law if you're going to enforce the law. But what I want to go back to that, as you said, 97% of New York stop and frisk cases were on brown and Latinos, because that's the only place they was doing it. But it yield no weapons. Mm-hmm. So what that means to the chat room, and I'm coming right to you in the chat room, is that are you willing to be walking out of the master plan lounge with your girlfriend, okay, for people in Cleveland, and I pull up in my police car and make you lay down in the street? Are you willing to do that? Okay, because that's what we're coming to if you bring the police back in to do stop and frisk and heavy-handed enforcement, okay? You have to be willing to understand that 99% of the time, they're not going to get a criminal. They're going to get somebody that's either going shopping or somebody that's coming out of the bar, coming out of their house, walking down the street in the neighborhood where they shouldn't be at. So are you willing for this to happen. Okay, black on black crime, Art McCoy, Porter. Are y'all willing for this to happen? Because if you're not, and I say this again, if you're not, do not bring the police back into the community without their role being fully explained to them and what their mission is. Okay, and their mission and their roles have to be given to them from the community, because this is why we are in the situation we are in right now. Okay, we can't have no more Tamira Rice. We can't have no more Melissa Thompson and them. Okay, we can't have no more police officers being indicted. Okay, for doing their job. Okay, we can't have no more riots. We can't have no more burning down the city. We can't have no more of that. Okay, because all we're doing right now is telling our kids that their conduct is acceptable. Okay, because those 3 kids sitting right there in juvenile court, 14 years old, 15-year-old, they have no clue what they're facing. I'm serious. I looked at that little boy the other day. He has no clue that his life is over with.
Well, their life was over with. For them to be out there doing that, their life was already over with. That means they had no guidance. They had no hope for any type
It was
future.
going down.
They had no hope for any sort of future.
Well, you have to look at this too, and I'm gonna come back to our court system. Okay,
and that's not their fault. I'm saying
right.
They were lost
well,
in the first place.
I blame our court system and our judges, our black judges. Okay, I know Michael Ryan right now left the criminal section and went into juvenile, and he's a good judge. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Michael Ryan's one of the best judges, and he's probably watching us right now. I know he's seeing this tragic continue on and on. But our problem is that when a kid goes out with a gun and robs somebody, okay, because each one of these boys had previous cases of violence with weapons. So this isn't the first time they picked up a gun. So let's not go in here talking about their angels, and let's not try to wipe eye on the tear right here, okay? These kids are not angels, okay? Once you get a gun, you're an adult, okay? The same problem when Tamira Rice was in the park over on the west side, okay? The dark horse that don't nobody want to talk about. We had kids at the Rapid Station, the West Park Station, robbing people with BB guns and guns, okay? And we continue to have that happen, okay? So the community at this point has to step up, okay? It has to step up, because when those kids was out there with those guns before, they should have been dealt with. Had they been dealt with the proper way, okay? I remember when I was growing up, reform school wasn't the best. It was some wild stuff, okay? But they removed these individuals from the community, okay? And we probably have to go back to this, just like the individuals in the schools, okay? We have to go back to open up mental hospitals again, okay? It's time right now. Trump's getting ready to.
Well, that's what a jail is, a mental hospital anyway.
But no, Tone, a lot of people, that is true, but see, a lot of people are not criminals. They're sick.
Yeah, a lot of people don't deserve to be there because they're not really criminals. You know, they're there because of the oppressive system, or bad judgment, or bad politics, or because bad judicial system, whatever you want to call it.
Or because the community just don't care.
But jail is supposed to be for sick people, mentally sick people, really deranged, evil individuals.
But that's what
real criminals.
That's what the hospital is supposed to be for, not jail. Hospital.
That's what jail is supposed to be for. Everybody shouldn't be shipped off to jail, to prison. Even if you commit a crime, like you have these so-called smart judges and police officials and whoever.
Where you gonna put them?
They're supposed. Who?
Any one of them. I mean, but if you close all the mental hospitals, and you making profit for jails.
I don't know what you mean by. That's what I'm talking about. The really mentally unstable people. That's what jail is for.
No, they're supposed to go to a hospital.
No, that's what jail is. It's a mental.
No,
it's an insane asylum. No. It's an insane asylum.
No, wait a minute. I understand what you're saying, because in your days you don't understand. You didn't see this because Reagan and them closed all those facilities. Yeah, but there used to be hospitals just for.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And that's where they need to be at. They don't need to be in a jail.
No, they need to be in jail. Like there's no reason to have a whole hospital. It's not that many people. A lot of people, even when those mental hospitals were open, a lot of people going there weren't crazy. They didn't deserve to be in there. Somebody made a wrong diagnosis, or somebody put them in there to punish them, and you might have a completely sane person sitting in there
only one I know.
around a bunch of wackos.
Only one I know about that was Jack Nicklaus.
Nah, well, you talking about what's that? One Fly Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Right, but see, I'm looking
No,
at
that's
this.
based on true stuff.
Right, it is. But I'm looking at this. Criminals need to go to jail, okay, and people who have medical problems or sick or mental problems need to go into a mental hospital and maybe get and have their illness treated.
And what I was saying, I wasn't saying like, the jail should replace the mental asylum that you bring it back. I'm saying there's no need to bring the mental asylum back. The jail should be a place for those.
They can't do it.
Yeah, because they already got this already kind of a listen. The jails, they got too many jails, and the jails are too big as they are. They overpopulated, they overcrowded with a bunch of people who don't need to be there. They need to be given a chance.
We can go with that, but you know why the overcrowding is, right? The
Yeah.
overcrowding came from mass incarceration of giving inappropriate sentences.
Exactly.
Okay, but
that's what I'm talking about. If there was more room in these prisons, then we would have, you could make a sane ward in the prison for the really mentally unstable people, and then for just the real people who just think they're just super tough guys, the other side of the jail could be for them.
I got you where you going with that, because that's what Reagan said you could do. Okay, so I got that, and I go with you. And I want to say this to the class from the University of Southern California there with Michael Wilkins. We appreciate you joining us. And Tone, the impact of guns on railroad cars, is very, very, very serious. And that is something that everybody need to be addressing right here, especially our mayor and our chief. And if the mayor tells you that the federal government told him not to tell you about guns being stolen off of railroad cars in our city because the railroad are not properly protecting the cargo or guarding the cargo, we got a problem, folks.
Right.
Okay? Because if our kids can walk from the Garden Valley projects and walk over and get on a train and get an AR-15, it's a lost cause. Okay? I'm gonna just keep it real right there. It's a lost cause. The impact alone of metal thefts are wide-reaching. In addition to the monetary costs involved replacing the copper, the railroads, and all that. Okay, and the insurance stuff go up. Okay, when insurance prices go up, that goes back to the consumers. Okay, the tax cuts are coming. Everything is being done. One officer taking care of almost 600 miles. That's unheard of. Okay, and I went out there with him. And I'm gonna say this too. I went out there and rode in a nice little Chevy SUV. They got all the equipment, but he out there by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 600 miles from Cleveland to Buffalo.
Ineffective.
Okay, right.
Completely
because but they don't want to hire nobody.
Right.
Okay, and they take the cost because they making millions and millions of dollars, and what everybody don't understand is they're not using truckers no more. They putting those trailers on train and shipping them across, and they don't want to hire no security for that. Then you look at terrorists. They're shipping all types of stuff on rails.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if our kids can get in there and do that, what's going to stop somebody from getting in there, getting explosives or getting something that really want to do some harm? And we really need to stay up on top of that story right there. In Chicago alone, they was hit over 400 times.
A full-time job for the thieves. That's more than one a day.
Cleveland, Atlanta, across the country, okay? It's not just Detroit, okay? Don't think that it's not happening here in Cleveland. You got to be naive. The activists have to be naive. The police officers have to be naive, thinking that these kids walking around with all these guns are not going to turn them on them.
Yeah, you said earlier that the people said it's not an inside job. The police say it's not an inside job. It is an inside job.
But I don't know, because you know the problem is right here, Tom.
Whether it's intentional
or unintentional.
Not, right? It's an inside
But
job.
you have to look at this. You know the problem I have. The problem I have with this whole story when we was looking at it was when the DOJ told your city government not to say anything.
Right.
Okay. So at that point in time, this has been occurring since 2013, after they stole thousands of weapons. Okay, there are thousands of weapons out there.
Mm-hmm.
Last year alone, the ATF is saying over 200,000 weapons were stolen in the United States. 200,000 guns. Okay, the Supreme Court just made a ruling, and this is the problem I have. The Supreme Court just made a ruling up in Maine or Connecticut that it's not your constitutional right or the Second Amendment to have an AR-15. Okay, our forefathers wasn't thinking about AR-15s, so the Supreme Court said no. Okay, and they banned them in that state. They're banned. Okay, so now they're shipping them across. When I found out that companies were doing what is called storage shipping, I can't sell my guns, so I'm gonna ship them across to L.A. hoping they get stolen. I can get 100% profit, and then when they get to L.A., I'm gonna ship them back. Do you understand 100 AR-15s at $1,000 a piece? How much money that is?
And I'm telling you, with that in mind, what you just said, that convinces me even more that it's an intentional inside job. You get the guns back, sell them on the black market, and you get the insurance money.
Right, and you look at this, okay, and I'm looking at this, $1,000 WAP, okay. They got in Chicago on one robbery, they took 100 Rugers. Those Rugers were selling for $1,400 a piece. They're almost, I'm not going to say assault rifles or whatever, but that thing. Okay, that's $300,000 to that gun industry or that person to ship those guns, okay? That he wasn't going to get $300,000 from it sitting here at his gun store or at his, when you go to the gun show, okay? So that's 100% profit for him, okay? And those guns are coming into our neighborhood or your neighborhood. And the chat room, YouTube, Facebook Live, and everybody, we're going to hit on that earlier because we're going to go into the FBI report, and that is something that we're going to really talk about, Tone, and we're going to go in deep with that. But in 2015, out of Chicago, Tone, in that ward alone, in the 63rd area, they had 762 killings in the 63rd Street yard where all these guns are being stolen from, okay? That's a lot of killings in Chicago with people stealing guns. Look at Cleveland. We just topped 120. For the first time, we just had 5, well, at least 3 juveniles, 15 years old, looking at life in prison right now for killing someone. But right now, we're going to go into the chat room with Dino's. What's up out there? I see the smoke. Is it on fire?
Well, Chanel, the chat room is alive and on fire. Assault rifle stolen from freight train is now fueling Chicago violence. Here is what we are talking about, and they're letting their opinions show. Leroy Goldberg, a freight train carrying assault weapons through Inglewood. Someone really thought this was a great idea. Someone got paid off. Team RIH. Squire Stevenson replied to Leroy Goldberg, "This isn't new. This has been going on for decades. What I find odd is that a gun is shipped with corresponding ammo." Just Axon, AXIN. The look on their faces would be priceless. We done hit the lotto. Story Devereaux. So a freight train carrying assault rifles makes a stop in Inglewood, Chicago, an area high in gun crimes that makes national news every day and is robbed. You expect us to believe that? Or perhaps the train stopped on purpose. That's ridiculous. This was no robbery. This was a delivery. Don't take the bait, Chicago. They are fishing. Steve, how is it no one, not the reporters or the ATF or any commenter, realized the high-capacity guns that were stolen in our chamber in 22 LR? Why was that not reported? Why didn't gun shop guys say anything? The 22 is not a NATO round. It is no wonder Chicago is the violent cesspool of the country regarding gun violence. No one there knows anything about guns to know what they're talking about, and the term assault rifle is not correct either. The reporter did say that the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 is modeled after military-style weapons. That is your clue, people. Military rifles are fully automatic, are assault weapons. Even the Department of Defense definition acknowledges this. So-called civilian AR-15 semi-automatic rifles are not assault rifles. Bulls 2014, 15 NBA champions. Might be a cartel who stole them. And on the funny side 88, Saxman. I'm the funny man now. A guy is walking down the street with his friend. He says to his friend, "I'm walking I'm a walking economy. His friend replies, how's that? It's like this. My hairline is in recession. My stomach is the victim of inflation. And the combination of these factors is putting me into a deep depression. And that's what's going on in the chat room with these no's.
Sponsored by Talkspace, the online therapy company. For a fraction of the price of traditional therapy, you can pick an experienced, licensed therapist you relate to and feel comfortable with. Each and every therapist has at least a master's degree and has completed over 3,000 hours of supervised work. To match with your perfect therapist, go to Talkspace.com/boom. And to show your support for this podcast, use code BOOM to get $30 off your first month. That's BOOM. Talkspace.com/boom. BOOM.
AP Radio News. I'm Ed Donahue. Former Today Show co-host Natalie Morales says she felt like most people are feeling after hearing Matt Lauer has been fired.
I saw the news and woke up to the news like everyone this morning, just in shock.
Morales is now one of the hosts of Access Hollywood. NBC says Matt Lauer was fired after a colleague stepped forward alleging inappropriate sexual behavior.
The story today is the courage of a colleague who did come forward, and when and if she wants to tell her story publicly, I'm sure she will, but it did take a lot of courage.
Morales says she's already addressed rumors that an affair between her and Matt Lauer led to her departure from the Today Show. She called them hurtful to her and her family. President Trump is facing strong criticism at home and abroad for retweeting video purportedly showing Muslims committing violence. The AP's Sagar Magani is at the White House.
The videos were posted by a far-right British political group against what it calls the Islamization of the UK. White House spokeswoman Sarah Sanders dismissed questions about whether the videos are real, saying the actual issue is border security.
The threat is real, and that's what the president is talking about.
The British government says the president was wrong to retweet the videos, a rare rebuke from a close ally. And Zainab Chowdhury at the Council on American Islamic Relations says the president's essentially endorsing a fringe group amid rising attacks on Muslims.
It's actually very appalling that the President of the United States would see it appropriate.
Sagar Magani at the White House.
Police in Tampa say the suspect in the murders of 4 people works at a McDonald's, and they got a big break when Howell Donaldson asked a coworker to hold a bag with a gun inside while he went across the street. Police Chief Brian Dugan says the worker told the boss, who contacted a police officer who was in the restaurant.
The gun is what we needed. The same gun was used in all 4 murders.
This is AP Radio News. Radio host Garrison Keillor has lost his job, accused of inappropriate behavior.
Minnesota Public Radio confirms a person who worked with Garrison Keillor complained about him last month, but did not give details. NPR says its investigation is ongoing. Keillor tells the Associated Press in an email he was fired over a story he thinks is more interesting and more complicated than the version NPR heard. He did not give details. Keillor retired from hosting A Prairie Home Companion last year, but still produced the show The Writer's Almanac. NPR says it will no longer rebroadcast past editions of A Prairie Home Companion hosted by Keillor. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
And Keillor later said he had put his hand on a woman's bare back in an attempt to console her. A third House Democrat, Oregon's Earl Blumenauer, is suggesting Michigan Congressman John Conyers should resign following allegations of sexual harassment by at least 3 staff members. John Conyers' family is rallying in support of the 88-year-old lawmaker. I'm Ed Donahue, AP Radio News.
You've reached the Hollier helpline. We turn the holidays into Holliers.
Hi, my gift list is a mile long. I don't have time to shop around.
Get to Old Navy now.
Old Navy?
Yep, get all the gifts you need, like jeans, sweaters, and dresses for up to 50% off today, plus accessories from $4.
Up to 50% off jeans, sweaters, and dresses?
Want to really cash in? Redeem your super cash now. And when you do, use your Old Navy card in-store or online to earn double reward points.
Now that's a gift.
Turn your holiday into a Hollier. Get to Old Navy today. Valid 11/29 to 12/5, select styles only. Double reward points offer subject to credit approval. See store or oldnavy.com/supercash for details and exclusions.
This is Tassie Hawthorne from sunny California, and I listen to STMK Radio 100. Stop the madness. Keep it 100 on Facebook Live.
And now back to John with the weather.
Yes, Andy. Tonight, a big storm. Storm this! Get the soccer offer from Pizza Hut and Pepsi. With every 2 medium pan Super Supreme, you get a real soccer ball and 4 cans of Pepsi for free. Yes, a real soccer ball and 4 cans of Pepsi for free. Yes, Pepsi soccer ball. 4 cans. Don't miss the Pizza Hut and Pepsi soccer offer. With every 2 medium pan Super Supreme, you get a real soccer ball and 4 cans of Pepsi for free. What about the weather, Eddie? Don't resist and call 19,000 now.
You're listening to STMK Radio 100. Stop the madness.
Between 1956 and 1971, the FBI ran a counterintelligence program named COINTELPRO that was initiated by J. Edgar Hoover. COINTELPRO mainly targeted civil rights leaders such as Martin Luther King, and it's commonly understood that this was an abuse of its surveillance power in a manner to suppress a peaceful movement. So I would like to ask Mr. Chair unanimous consent to enter this report into the record, which is Black Identity Extremists likely motivated to target law enforcement officers. I believe earlier you said you were not familiar with the report. Is that correct?
Well, I haven't read it. I know some of the alleged targeting of officers by
Okay, so I would like to know, and I'll ask you about that in a minute. So you are somewhat familiar with it. Who had the power in your department to order a report like this?
I'm not sure how that report got ordered. I don't believe I explicitly approved it or directed it.
Okay, so you haven't necessarily read the report, but you are familiar with the term Black Identity Extremists?
Well, I think so, yes.
So can you tell me what that term means to you? Do you believe that there is a movement of African Americans that identify themselves as Black Identity Extremists, and what does that movement do?
Well, it'd be interesting to see the conclusions of that report, but I'm aware that there are groups that do have an extraordinary commitment to their racial identity, and some have transformed themselves even into violent activists.
Are you aware of white organizations that do this as well? Given that white supremacy is well-documented, well-researched movements such as the neo-Nazis, the Ku Klux Klan, etc., are they white identity extremists?
I didn't follow that question. Please, again.
Is there a term or a report on white identity extremists? You mentioned you were familiar with black people who identify with their racial identity.
Yes, but it's not coming to me at this moment.
Not coming to you?
It's
certainly a group such as the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, and then the skinhead movements, but there's a racial identity white movements that have been identified for sure.
So has the FBI done a report on white identity extremists that are likely motivated to target law enforcement officers? Is there
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, are you aware of a group called the Sovereign Citizens?
I've heard that group, yeah.
And I believe that the Sovereign Citizens is primarily a white organization that absolutely has targeted police officers and killed police officers. You're not aware of that?
I'm not aware of all their crimes, but I know they're a group that's known to have violent tendencies.
Could you name a couple of instances in which African Americans did kill police officers who were not associated with a black organization? And so one, for example, in Baton Rouge was associated with Sovereign Citizens, which is primarily a white group. So you should know that there's a lot of concern in the community, especially from organizations such as Black Lives Matter. By the way, would you consider Black Lives Matter a black identity extremist group?
I'm not able to comment on that. I have not so declared it.
So you should know that a lot of activists around the country are very concerned that we're getting ready to repeat a very sad chapter of our history, where people who are rightfully protesting what they consider to be an injustice in their community, which is their relationship with police officers, are now being targeted and labeled as extremists and are going through periods of surveillance and harassment. And so I would like to know, what is your department going to do to protect the rights of average citizens to protest if they have a concern about police officers?
This department will not unlawfully target people.
Officer cannot sue Black Lives Matter because it is a social movement. A U.S. judge ruled on Thursday, finding the campaign could not be held responsible for injuries he got at a protest. The unidentified officer sued Black Lives Matter and an activist involved in a July 2016 protest in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where the officer was struck by a rock. But the judge found the officer had not made a sufficient case against such a group or an individual involved and dismissed the lawsuit.
Hey, welcome back. And going to Stop the Madness, keep it 100. And from the 216, we have Mike on the phone. Mike, welcome with us. What you got to say on a Free Fall Thursday?
Hey, how you doing? I just wanted to chime in on the extremist situation with the FBI.
Yeah, we're going right into that. Go ahead.
Well, the reason we're being targeted, I was actually just looking all this up. I listened to the tail end of that basically. So I believe this is a rally for us because a lot of the other side is basically funding Black Lives Matter and all that, while people believe that Black Lives Matter is a movement for us. It's really constructed to bring us down. So, like, even when I hear people representing it, see T-shirts or whatever, I cringe, kind of just knowing what I know and knowing what niggas don't know, basically.
Well, let me ask you this question right here, Mike, before you go any further. And just turn your volume down a little bit. When you look at this and you look at the FBI report, they had to go back 40 years to find any incidents of a black group even committing violence with police officers, okay? And when you go back that far, then that makes the report inaccurate, okay? Because if you look at it and when you look at this, first of all, let's call it like it is. Black Lives Matters, and the federal courts have already brought this out, and I've been saying this for a long time. Black Lives Matter is not a group, okay? It's a social movement, a hashtag. And you have a lot of groups that use that hashtag, like the People Revolutionary Communist Party, okay? They use the hashtag Black Lives Matters. Black on black crime use the hashtag Black Lives Matters. There is no one group that is Black Lives Matter, okay? And when you look at the FBI report, and I'm going to go in deep later, Tom, with this, when you look at the FBI report goes back to the 60s and 70s when the Black Panthers and the People Revolutionary Army, Patty Hearst and them, was targeting law enforcement officers. Mm-hmm. They were blowing up police stations.
That's just a reflection of the current administration right now.
Well, that's correct. And you have to go back to this report. If you listen to the councilwoman, they made Black Lives Matter a group or a movement when the courts have already ruled it wasn't. And then secondly, they refuse to try to tie in who are the real extremists for law enforcement officers, okay? And I want to go right to that.
So can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
What does that mean for us?
Well, what that means is that they are once again targeting activists, okay? And the problem with this is you have to go back to the Coattail Pro report when in 1954, 1964, they targeted Martin Luther King, they targeted Malcolm X, they targeted other activists that were speaking out against the injustices, okay? And when you look at the FBI report, we're going to go into it because the FBI report is telling you right now and telling them, and we're going to bring it home, is that if you're listening to my radio station right now and you're listening to my program and you come to my Facebook page because I'm speaking about the FBI report and black extremists, and they call it now black identity extremists, you're likely to go out and target a law enforcement officer, okay? And I don't think that's correct. And they're telling you that gives them the right to look at your Facebook page, to monitor your phone, and to bring you in for questioning, okay? And I think that has some constitutional violations there because in the report itself, it's telling the people that even though I'm talking right now, my talk is constitutionally covered under the First Amendment right. So I'm speaking lawfully, but they're going to target me. And I want everybody to understand this. When you come down into this, let's talk about it right now. We're going to keep it real. Damian Parker in the city of Euclid is a victim of this report. Okay? His incident in Euclid City Hall caused them, and you don't have to take my word for it. Go to Channel 3 and read the Euclid Police Report, where in the Euclid Police Report, the officer says that they knew Damien because of his Facebook post and the threats he made on law enforcement officers, or allegedly made toward law enforcement officers on Facebook. Now, my question is this. Why is police officers or law enforcement agencies monitoring people's Facebook pages? That's what this report does. This report targeted. This report tells you that if you listen to Malcolm X, or you listen to Farrakhan, or if you listen to Sean on Stop the Madness, Keep It 100, you don't have enough intelligence to separate what I'm talking about, and you're going to go out and target law enforcement officers. That's where I have a problem with this report is. Because what they don't want to say is the number one threat to law enforcement officers are sovereign citizens, okay? The black guy who killed those 4 or 5 police officers in Louisiana was not a member of Black Lives Matter. He was a member of the Sovereign Citizen Group. And I got a list here, Mr. Mike, and I'm going to give you your free for all Thursday again to go back with it, but a list here of over 28 incidents with 14 violent incidents where law enforcement officers were killed. We don't have to go back 40 years. We can go back 6 months, 7 months, 10 months, 12 months, and 3 months. And the state where the sovereign citizens are from the most is right here in the state of Ohio. Okay, they don't believe law enforcement officers are the enemy. Okay, and in Ohio, a father and son killed not less than 9 months ago, killed 2 law enforcement officers in West Memphis, Arkansas. Okay, so we ain't got to go back no 30 years to say we're going to blow up a police station. They're doing it right now. Okay, this is just a cover right here by the current administration and his DOJ department to give police officers and law enforcement department cover to go after activists and protesters. And this is why we got to go out and vote. This is why you have to be active in your community. But Mr. Mike, it's a free for all Thursday, and I'm going to let you have it for the next 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hear you, and I respect your opinion. You sound thoroughly researched, like you're in it, you're passionate. But I'm saying, what do we do is really what I'm asking. Because the voting, I don't really, you can vote, but I really don't, I don't believe in that system there as far as that making any type of difference.
Okay, okay, let me bring you in right there. Ladies and gentlemen, on Stop the Madness, Keep It 100. You just hearing a young man here, one of our millennials, who does not understand the values of voting and doing what we need to do. And he doesn't have faith in the system because the system has let him down. Now let it.
No. Hold on, brother. You can't speak for me like that. I was just really more along the lines of we need economic strength.
Okay, well, even economic strength, but you got to vote. When you say you don't believe in voting, see, this is the problem right here. Voting is
if you have the economic strength, even like if we pull our black dollar out of circulation, hypothetically, that alone is going to get us enough power to go to the table. And
if you look at that, but look at this. If we get a young man such as yourself and put you in the office where you control the purse, and you have that idea and you have that mindset, we can do that. See, when you don't control, we are a society of laws and we are a society of rules, okay? And in order to change the laws or the rules, you have to go into the system that we have, okay? You can't work outside the system. You have to get into the system, okay? Now, when you're talking about changing and bringing money into...
Who told you that?
Well, it's an opportune fact because they're the one to make the laws. Okay, you don't make the laws. If you're not in the system or in the game, you can't play. It's like a football game, bro. Okay.
Well, to be honest with you, I wasn't born with a social security number or birth certificate. To be honest with you.
Okay, but you,
So,
but
I
you,
mean, I
but,
was
but you, but you
truly
spent.
born
But let me,
free.
okay, but let me
We
ask you
got a
this.
sovereign citizen on the line
Right,
right
right.
now.
I know we got a sovereign citizen online, and I like what he say. He don't want to be in the government. Okay, but at some point in time, if you're going to take the stand that you're not going to be part of the government and you're going to do this on your own, then you must educate the people around you to bring them into your thinking. Okay, because as a sovereign citizen, as I just told you, sovereign citizens do not believe in the government. They do not believe in police officers. They do believe in the sheriff. Okay, because the sheriff is the person that they put there to enforce their laws. Okay, I'm with you right there, so we can talk about it. But the problem is, if you do not educate me on your beliefs to bring us around to a better position right there, then how can we sit at the table?
Well, see, this could be like an education session in both ways because there's a lot to it. I mean, to understand what we have to do as far as our, I'm going to talk vaguely here. I'm going to say as far as our magic is concerned, we're going to have to understand vibration, frequency, polarity. We're going to have to understand finances. We're going to have to understand the art of war. We're going to have to be more strategic. There was a guy, and I work a 9 to 5. Sitting in front of the computer all day, basically. So there was this. I'm gonna call him Black for the sake of calling him Black, but and see, even you saying believe. What I was getting into was you saying believe. It's not a matter of what I believe. It's a matter of what you know. Because in the middle of believe is lie. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
So,
I can go with that on that issue. Yes, you can go ahead. I can go with that on the belief. But let me ask you this.
Okay.
Let me ask you this before we go right here, because our audience have to come in with us. Okay, so let me ask you this question. As a person who believes that we should be out on our own, I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna call you because you didn't say you was a sovereign citizen, but Tony Stone brought that in. But what I'm gonna say, you don't believe in
just call me a free man.
Okay,
'cause I
a free
am
man.
free.
Okay, a free man. And it's just like we had a brother here in studio with us last month that was really, really hot on that. Okay, and I'm gonna say this as a free man coming into society as you know it, because you know there's two societies, correct? You have your society of our rules and our government and the handouts to come down, okay? And then you have the people to say, I'm not going to do that. So as a free man, how are you going to bring our kids over without education? So you got to get into the schools to.
That's really what I was saying was education. It's a learning curve, though.
But
because
you got
everybody isn't on the same level.
That's correct.
I can offend somebody telling them something that's good for them just because they don't know anything about the shit, and it rubs them the wrong way because they're not right there yet. Because with the learning thing, it's a matter of seeking the information. So it's not, you can't educate people that want to be educated and see, like, my personal, I'll use this word right now, my personal belief is blood is like the spiritual currency, and some of these niggas got to go.
Okay, but see, I don't like to use the Dan word, so I might have to bring you back there a little bit. I understand it because I get on my people, but
do you know where that word comes from?
yeah, yes, I know where it comes from, but I don't like to use the N word because everybody uses it a different way. But let me ask you this: let's go all the way back. Since you brought this down, let's go all the way back to education. Let's go back to 1861, the Bacon Rebellion. Okay, when the African had to be.
I will go to 1861 with you if you just break down the word Nagos to me, because that's what it is, and that's really literally our word before.
Wait, but I understand. Wait a minute. I understand that too, and I understand the different definitions and everything else. But what my position is that no person of color should use that word anyway. Person either talking about a person or not. Now you using it in an intelligent way, okay, where we can talk about it, so I can talk with you about that. But when you come back into the mode, 99% of the time that word is used in a negative content. Okay, so when you go back into educating the African, which goes back to 1861 and then come up through the Civil War and Reconstruction, okay, in order to educate the African, you're going to have to sit down with the African and show him the way of life. Okay, we may not understand you in the beginning. Okay, the African didn't understand reading, writing, and English word. Okay, they was taught that, and they was taught that to keep them in a slave mentality mind. Okay,
Wait. See, hold on. See, look, that's the thing. Like, even before that, like, you're starting with 1861. This is the Eurocentric view off top. So basically, I feel you're embodying white supremacy, and you don't even know it, even though you stand on the side of quote unquote black people. And no disrespect to you. I don't even mean it like that. I'm just saying.
I understand what you're saying. Go ahead.
All on different levels of education. So, and I don't mean that arrogantly either. I'm just saying, the thing is, when it comes down to the come down, it's about some people seek information and some people are slothful of mind. And the ones that are have to go because they're in the way anyway, black or white. Because this is a new age upon us, and it is what it is. It's an information age. No excuse to be ignorant.
There you go. Now, my thing is this. So, in order to bring on our people or bring on the people for that change to go into your mindset or your mind thinking, you have to go educate our kids. Not you per se, but maybe 20 people, okay? Because you're not the only one that think this way, okay? You got a bunch of people in the Midwest that actually lives this way and think this way, okay? They just had a big thing where they took over when they was talking about people taking their lands and stuff, okay? So you're not by yourself thinking this, and a lot of people feel this way, okay? But if you do not get within the system to educate our young people to understand that way of life, then how are they supposed to know it? But we're going to get into deep into the FBI report, and I want you to give us a call back because we got another call. And, Mike, thank you for calling us on Stop the Madness. Keep it 100, bro, and I want you to stay tuned with us, and I want you to come back. Matter of fact,
that was a good question, too.
Matter of fact, you need to probably sit up and come into the studio with us one day so we can just spend an hour and rap about what you want to talk about so we can bring our people aboard.
I sure will. I'm gonna write down some points.
Right, because there's nothing wrong when me and you can sit at the table and talk. See, this is something that everybody has to understand. And this is what I talk about the system, okay? Everybody don't want to sit at the table and talk about the system, okay? When I talk about police officers and misconduct, if you have to say not all police officers are bad, well, then you're admitting there's a problem. And if there's a problem, then we need to sit down and talk about it. Okay, you can't close your ear to that. Okay, just like you can't say all people in the community are bad. But we're gonna get with that on Stop the Madness. Keep it 100, Mike. Hey, and you're gonna have to give us a call. And I'm gonna hold you to come on to the show with us, and me and you just gonna go in and have an hour rap session and sit it out there for everybody. All right, thank you for calling us. We appreciate it very much. Hey, people, that's what I'm talking about for a free for all Thursday. You heard that brother call in. And he has an idea of what he wants to do, but he's willing to talk about it. And this is what we got to do. We got to sit down at the table and talk about what's happening. But our man on the beat, Saxman, is out there waiting for us to come and see what he's doing. So we're going to have to get Saxman and see what he's talking about right there. Because I want to ask him about this report, Tony Stone.
Yeah, I like that dialogue between y'all. I was actually sitting back reserving, listening to y'all. Go in, and I like it. That was real good.
Right,
that was real good. Good exchange.
When we went on the mode right there, I didn't know he was in that mode, and I just quoted some stuff right there, and I'm quoting stuff on research and laws, and maybe he could have enlightened me. Because you remember we had Brother Black, okay, and we went into the thing about that. And if we don't sit down and talk about it. But Saxman, you're playing hooky today, and the people in San Diego and Los Angeles and the student from University of Southern California is sitting here
Saxman always playing hooky.
So what's up, Sax?
Oh, man, y'all always picking on Sax. Even when Sax is man down injured, y'all still want to mess.
Sax, but did you hear that young man who was a free man?
That's a cool brother. I can sit and have a beer with him.
Well, not only that, he's very edgy. This is something where I like. okay? Because he's very very astute of what he want to do, and he has some ideas, okay? And when I'm telling everybody this, I'm coming from a point of view where I'm looking at we're in society of laws. Okay, I'm not a free man. I'm a person within society that we working through the views and we live in the laws, and laws are set and guide the kingdom and all the rest of it. Okay, and we can go back into why things happen, especially if you're willing to listen. Okay, as he was, and he educated me on some things that I'm gonna put back on him when he come into the show, because you know what, I looked at that, and I looked at this FBI report. Okay, and the FBI report is giving police department covers to go after activists in a way that they shouldn't be allowed to do. Okay, because my Facebook page is protected speech. As long as I'm not saying I'm going to blow up the mirror building, I'm gonna blow up the thing. And I know a lot of police officers in the chat room and here and everything. This is something that everybody has to worry about. We talked about that earlier.
You said earlier, Shine, when you were on the phone with the young brother Mike, that about them monitoring the pages. And yeah, it's protected, but of course they're monitoring the pages because there's a bunch of fools on there giving them all the rope they need to hang them with. So that's why they're monitoring the pages. Now this is a whole nother area we're getting into with this black identity extremist stuff. This is something totally different, where these FBI, these law enforcement officials, Sessions, whoever it may be, are trying to silence the people who are trying to make change, real change,
and that's a problem.
Needed change in
and
this
that's
country.
a problem. And this is
what Sean, I think this a way of identifying or slapping a label on people like you and I. We're having a discussion about situations that they might not agree with. They would prefer to slap a label on and say, we Black Extremist.
Right, that's the problem right there. The problem that I have with this whole situation is exactly what you just said about the FBI. They're saying that if I'm listening to that young man that I just talked to, who just educated me with some things, and we had a moment right there, okay? And we talked right there. And the brother was very astute of what he was doing. They're telling me they're going to look at his Facebook page, my Facebook page, and that gives them the right to call me in for an investigation, okay? I'm a journalist, okay? I'm a talk show host. I have right here, I want everybody to see this. If you can see it back, you can't see it on the radio though. But I have press license, okay? Which means under the press license, I can go and write and say anything I want to say. So that means that the FBI under Jeff Sessions, because they wanted your Facebook page for talking about 45, okay? So with my press credentials, I can go write any story I want. When I come sit in this chair on my show, I can say anything I want. In the report itself, and I have the whole copy of the report right here, okay? It identifies, it doesn't even identify the people who are threats to law enforcement officers. And that's the problem I have with the report, okay? Is that you have individuals, and I'm not going to, the young man that I was talking to when I started quoting the things. In the report, for sovereign citizens, there are 38 incidents since 2011. Okay, that's 7 years ago. Over 14 police officers have been killed. Let me break it down for everybody so you can understand this. Okay, when Leon County Sheriff Deputy Christopher Smith and Calvin Woodford responded to a call about a house fire in Tallahassee last Saturday. They were greeted by a burning home occupied by 53-year-old Christopher Wade Holly, brandishing a .40 caliber handgun. He killed both of them and shot the sheriff. He was a sovereign citizen. Okay, that was Saturday. There's not one incident that anybody right now can tell me where anybody flying the banner Black Lives Matter has committed offensive violence. Not one. Okay? In Dallas, that young man that killed those 6 police officers in Dallas was not a member or part of Black Lives Matter. It's a proven fact that the gentleman in Louisiana who killed those 7 police officers was a member of a Soviet citizens group, which is white. If you listen to the intro that we came in, our educators and our Congress people asked Sessions just that question. What about what about the skinheads? What about the white supremacists, the all right? What about what about the guy who was an all right neo-Nazi that killed the lady in Charlotte not even 3 months ago? Okay?
Right.
In the FBI report, it goes back 40 years to tell you when a black extremist targeted a law enforcement officer. And they're talking about the Black Panthers, and they're talking about the people, the People Revolutionary Army and all that, who target police officers in the 60s and 70s. And those were black and white groups, not just black groups, okay? They were black and white.
Right.
But if you got to go back 40 years, this report should have never been done. Okay.
Exactly.
What this report is doing is giving departments like the city of Euclid cover to target people who speaking out against injustice, and that's wrong.
You know, so I understand, because for somebody that has to reach that far to prove a point, you know, they don't have a point. They don't have a justification today to do anything. That was 40, 50 years ago. What are we doing today?
Right. What are they doing today? And for the people to listen to me in Savannah, L.A., we got the college kids with us. This is why I tell everybody here, and this is what I was telling the young man Mike. In order to change a system, you have to become involved in the system. Okay?
Right.
You have to become part of the system. Okay? You cannot change a system from sitting outside. If you don't walk in City Hall and sit in the chairs. What's happening now with Brazier Jones, the young man? This young man's going to go in office. We need to start finding more young men who are educated and who's willing to change the system and bring brand new ideas. Okay?
Yeah, but are they willing to listen to a sovereign citizen and take his advice? And,
it doesn't make. But see, Saxman, this is the problem. It doesn't make a difference whether they're willing to listen or not, because guess what? When he gets into office and we start putting people in office who look like us and who look out for our interests and look out for the interests of our kids, he's going to have his turn to speak. He's going to have his turn to make them listen. Okay, we're in this situation right now where the Republicans can no longer stand on the moral front with what's going on. Okay, we're in a situation right now, and I told everybody this on the Monday show. When Bill Crosby was in that situation in 2015, what did everybody say? Hang him. Okay, now the floodgates is open. I mean, the floodgates is open. Roy Moore, you got people. Wait a minute, but this is the problem right here. They want Al Franken to resign for kissing a woman and groping her. Okay, they want him to resign.
Look what happened to Mac Lowry. Look at Mac Lowry.
Wait a minute. Right. They fired Mac Lowry. But on the same token, here's a person who was banned from the mall for looking at your kids. We're talking about a pedophile now and having sex with 14, 15-year-old girls. And for anybody to stand up and to say it's okay, but you want all these, our moral factors are gone, folks. Okay? They're gone. For anybody to say, I'll vote for a pedophile over a Democrat has lost his mind. This is what started the Civil War.
Blind loyalty.
Okay. This is what started the Civil War. People cannot sit down and talk to each other. Okay, just like I was telling the brother that was there before. If we can't sit down at the table and listen, then we lost already. Okay, that's why our kids are going the way they're going. Okay, because nobody is sitting down to talk to them, and nobody, if we say this is wrong, the mama's sitting over here saying it's okay. Okay, you can't have that. You're sending them conflict information. You have law enforcement officers that are saying, if I can't come in the community and enforce the law, I don't want to come into the community. Okay, that's a problem now. Okay, our police officers are riding by because they're being told not to do anything. Okay.
And that's true, and that's active. I'm I've been off.
Well, they in the chat room talking about it right now. They're in the chat room right now talking about how they riding around. We do see Saxman. This is the whole thing too. We do a internet radio. We on Facebook Live. We on YouTube Live. We all over social media. We in 22 cities now. Cleveland is only 1% of our listeners, if that. Okay, we're talking to people outside of Cleveland. Okay, that's why we talk about national issues. We talk about local issues. If we can't sit down and talk, and you got to take a stand of pro-police, anti-police, that's why we have the problems we have. This is why our kids, what we should be looking at, like I was just telling the young brother, the one problem we have right now, our kids are dropping out of school in the 7th grade. What education do they have in the 7th grade? Where is the village? Okay, just like you was talking about how we talk. Maybe you had to go out there on your soapbox like they used to do in the old days and stand up there and talk. Maybe,
I remember them days.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody might not look at you. Maybe somebody will. Okay.
Somebody gonna stop and listen.
A lot of people send me emails and listen to me, and our YouTube chat room and our YouTube channels filled up. Today, our Facebook channel was filled up, but now everybody gone. You know why? Because when you start talking about issues of color and you start talking about doing the right thing, a lot of people can't handle that conversation.
They can't handle the truth. I've
Okay,
always said that,
and like I told the young man, he talked about, and you know how I feel about the N-word.
Right.
Okay, and I don't let nobody get away with the N-word. Okay, and I correct it, and he talked about it an educated way, to what the word meant and how it come back and how it was established. I can go there with him, but the problem is this. When I posted this week on my Facebook page, I have no respect for anybody to do the N-word, calling people of color the N-word. I meant that. Okay? I look down on you. And if you use the N-word and we're talking, I can't hear nothing else you're saying. I can't hear you no more. I done blocked you out.
Sax wanted you to talk about it. He might have set that call up to get you to
but you know what, Tone?
Conversation going on.
But you know what, Tone? But Saxman, you know what? And I'm gonna say this, Tone. You know what? I can talk to that young man because that young man. Not only was he seeking knowledge, he was giving knowledge.
Exactly.
I can go with him on that, okay? Because I do a lot of research and I do a lot of reading, and I can go back to like I took him back to Bacon Rebellion, okay? Because that's where it starts at, okay? The Bacon Rebellion. That was what we know as slavery today when they started bringing the Africans over, okay? Because the indentured servants were no longer valuable for the 1%, okay? And then you go back into the 1861, and 17 and up, okay, to 1786 and all that, and you go back into the 1861, 1890 of Reconstruction, okay? When Reconstruction came, what everybody has to understand is that the Africans here couldn't read, couldn't write, and did not know of the religion that they was taught, okay? So they had to be taught that, to keep them in that mind frame. Look at how we came up from the 60s and the 70s, okay? The kids are not coming up like me, okay? When I came up, I had 3 people with a foot on my back forcing me to go to school and to college and get education. Okay? I retired from a job as a law enforcement officer at the age of 48, okay? I'm still a young man. How many black men has left a job at 48?
Not many.
Okay, and making over $100,000 a year, sitting at home doing a radio show.
Right.
Okay, because my mother and the 4 people in the village made sure that I got that understanding and that education. That's what's missing today. That's what's missing. When Miss Jackson...
That's what I've always said. It takes a village to raise nowadays, and it takes a strong parent, whether it's one parent in the house or both. It takes that strong parent to be involved in that child's life to teach them right.
Well, let me say this. You don't need...
You not be 12 years old running around out here with a gun.
that's a
no way in here.
right. But let me tell you this, Saxman. That's a fable and hyperbole. You don't need two people in the house. It's great to have two parents in the house, okay?
Mhm.
But there's some strong mothers that
Yes,
took
that's what
care
you're saying.
and raised 7 kids, and every
Mhm.
one of the 7 kids she raised turned out to be high-profile people in the community. There are mothers out there that has done the job of mothers and fathers, and this fable that we keep talking about, yes, the black community and the house was destroyed. We can go back to where it was destroyed. Those mothers overcame that and raised their kids. Okay, and I can tell you right now, I do not know of people who came up through my era who had single mothers. They didn't have no problems talking about they needed daddy because mama did the same thing daddy was going to do, break it off on you. Okay, and that's what I tell everybody right here on this show. We keep it real. We talk to people. If you can't stand the real talk, you may not believe in what I'm saying. You may not want to hear what I'm saying. You may think you better than anybody. Look at Puerto Rico. Okay?
Yeah.
Those are Americans over there suffering, and everybody's coming back home. Okay? That's unheard of. Nobody's outcried. Nobody's saying nothing. Everybody's being quiet. Okay.
You ain't heard them all. You haven't heard much of anything else no more about what happened.
Right, because everybody being quiet. What about the Virgin Islands that got wiped out? Everybody's being quiet. We're on the verge of a war with North Korea. Has everybody forgotten what happened to the war in 1950 with the South Korean and the North Korean War? When America when America took over North Korea and was getting ready to win the war, when 3 million Chinese came down and ran them back out. Okay. Do we really do America really thinks that the Chinese are going to sit there and allow America to go over there and take that land or do that? Are we really willing to fire off nuclear weapons now? Are we that crazy?
Well, that's why I believe it ain't nothing going to happen because that's going to be
the whole way. Let me tell you this right here. He doesn't even have to hit the mainland of America. The whole fleet is over there. You know how many people sitting on ships over there?
The whole 7th Fleet, yeah, I know.
Okay, he can wipe the whole fleet out. They have nuclear weapons. He may not have it to where they can fire to the mainland. Okay, Chinese got nuclear weapons. 3 million. If Chinese got into the war in 1950, what makes you think they're not going to get into the war now? Who you think?
Even though we in trade with them still.
Who you think is arming the Afghans? Why we still over there? That's the longest war America's been in, and we have not been able to defeat people living in a mountain wilderness.
Russia couldn't do it. They ran Russia out of there.
Thank you. So let's. We are not thinking properly. We're not looking at everything, and everybody's in their corner. Everybody right there, when Facebook Live was fired up, with all the people on Facebook Live when it's fired up, the minute we start talking about law enforcement and this FBI report, you can watch people go down. While Facebook went down, YouTube is fired up, and everybody's in the chat room. Okay, that's the problem right there. You don't want to hear what's going on in the world. If I talk about Trump and praise Trump, everybody's gonna sit there. The minute Tony Stone say something, or we say something about the police, the minute you look at the FBI report and you start going into the FBI report, okay, and it clearly shows you that they are targeting activists. Cotel Pro, the counter is happening for the counterintelligence program that was started by J. Edgar Hoover. The things they did to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X was the federal courts have ruled was illegal. So if you know this is illegal, why are you trying to do it again? And they're doing it again because guess what, Tone? We're allowing them to get away with it.
Right, I was about to say that. No one's complaining about it because they distracted with stuff that's not important. They distracted by this Black Lives crap. They distracted by the neon. They throw all this stuff out here to work for us to be focused on, and we forget what's really happening.
Well, Sax,
it's all, like I said, it's all by design. This is all by design.
Sax, I wouldn't say that people are distracted by things that are not important. Y'all just named a bunch of things to be concerned about, and all of them are important. There's a modern day slave trade going on in Libya right now. I mean, I'm not talking about some underworld sex slave trade. I'm talking about modern day slave trade where they're selling these people in broad daylight.
Right, but
there's so much going on. It's too much. It's too much. It's all sorts of stuff going on in the world right now.
Who put that government in?
It's going on right here. It's going on right here. A couple thousand miles away. What city is that? Where they just went in and just raided this place? I think they freed all them young girls.
Well, you got three preachers that just going to jail for that.
My point was, Sax, like it's not that people don't care or not concerned or they're distracted by things that aren't important. You know, you got to pick your battles. You have to pick your fight. There's a whole lot of stuff going on in the world, and there's no superheroes.
Well, I'm gonna tell you
there's no Superman and Batman that is gonna make it all go away.
And I'm gonna tell you the first thing is the problem right here is that we have to bring stability and safety back to our neighborhoods. Okay.
Yeah, it starts at home first. You got to take care of yourself and your family first. Get your affairs in order, and then go out and help the world and help the community and help the take one step at a time. It's not that people are distracted by less important things, Sax. Well, go ahead.
No, wait a minute. Now, you said something about there's no superheroes and stuff out there, right?
Nope.
But Sean earlier said something about pulling your drawers down and whooping your butt. Now, didn't he see superheroes paintings on your underwear? What did that? Did you have Captain America?
Nah, I don't even know what you're talking about.
But see, Sax,
what kind of drugs they got you on,
right?
Man?
See, Sax, you know what the whole thing of it is right there, as I tell everybody, is that our superheroes was the village, okay?
Yeah.
And in the 60s, 50s, and 70s, the village was Mrs. Parker, Miss Sue, and all the way down. If Miss Parker walked out and told you to did something, you did it, okay? Because if you didn't, you got whooped by Miss Parker, and then you got whooped when you got home.
See, I might not have made myself. I might not. Sax.
I had cool uncles. I had my dad was involved. I had some cool uncles. My best friend.
But Sax, what I was trying to say is that Sax. What I was trying to say is maybe I didn't make myself clear. I didn't mean there aren't heroes in the world. I mean there aren't Superman and Batman, those comic book heroes who are going to come and make everything all better in one day.
They just brought Wonder Woman back.
Nah,
I went the other day and I seen Thorn. Thorn is coming back too. Okay.
Okay. Well, if that's true, then maybe all of these problems will go away.
And we need the Avengers. We need the what's that?
By New Year's Eve. By New Year's Day.
No, Sax. What they used to call it? The Justice League.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
If they come in, I've been watching The Punisher on Netflix. That's my type of hero.
But when I go back into this Sax man, and I want to say this, because a lot of people in the chat room is hitting that, is that in the FBI report where it says that some of the speech is protective speech. If they have to put that in the report, then they should already know that nobody should even be looking at that. And I go to Damian Parker, and I bring it home to Cleveland, Ohio. Well, not Cleveland, Ohio, to Euclid, Ohio. Damian Parker. I said this earlier about Damian Parker, and this report speaks to why everybody has to be concerned about your constitutional rights being violated, because the Euclid Police Department, in their arrest report, to justify them arresting and using force. Right, using force on Damian Parker, made it quote about his Facebook page and him having weapons on Facebook and everything else. So my question is to Damian and his lawyer, when you get that officer on the stand, he's going to have to ask that one question. Why are you looking at his Facebook page? Do he understand what protected speech is? Was he treated different than anybody else would have been treated had you not looked at his Facebook page? Because his speech is protected speech. So if I'm not breaking the law on Facebook or on the show when I'm speaking about something, okay, then law enforcement officers come to do something to me. So why are they using what I say against me? Okay.
Now, did he indirectly physically threaten to do harm to the department, or
I,
did
well,
he just
well,
say
well.
something's
I,
gonna
I
happen?
I don't know either or. What I'm saying is the statement that they made in the arrest report. I'm looking at the FBI report, and I'm looking at a law enforcement agency here in the state of Ohio. I'm not going nowhere else. How they use the FBI report to write their report. And if I have problems with the FBI report, then you got to have problems with their report. Okay? Because the FBI report is clearly, and I mean clearly, identifying black activists and singling them out as persons who may targeted law enforcement officers. And they, like I said, and like I said, they went back 40 years. I just showed you 38 examples of a group who do target law enforcement officers, who have killed law enforcement officers,
And have done it, exactly.
and have done it, and will do it again. Okay, so you didn't have to go back, and if you look at any report, that's why Sessions couldn't answer this question. They are the number one threat to law enforcement officers, and the FBI done that back in the Bush era. Okay, now this is an era of Trump where people of color, I don't care if you're Muslim, I don't care if you're Puerto Rican, I don't care what nationality you are, you're being singled out and you're being talked about.
When you put the
set
two
us back
together,
60 years.
More like
Yeah,
70
but see,
years.
when you put the two together, Sean, you wanna put blacks as, or people from Black Lives Matter into a certain group, and then you want to drop off these guns in the ghetto or in the black community, because they ain't been dropped off in Pepper Pike in any white neighborhood. They get dropped off in black neighborhoods. So like I told you before, it's all by design.
Well,
to give us the weapons we need to kill each other. That's what we're doing, because it's within close proximity of each other. Blacks kill each other because we live next to each other. We don't live next to white people. So this black on black crime is a myth, because we're living next to each other. We ain't living out in Hudson Street, bro.
Here go, right. Well, here go a good question right here that somebody said about in the YouTube chat room. I'm going back in there, and I'm glad that this college guy from the University of Southern California put this out here in the chat room. Okay, Black Lives Matters. If Black Lives Matter is talking about police misconduct, why are we talking about black on black crime? Okay, when Blue Lives Matters talk about police officers' lives matters and everything else, nobody talks about the police misconduct or the cancer, or nobody say they should go talk about white on white crime. Nobody should say that they should talk about incidents of white people killing police officers, or none of that. Okay. The problem that we do is every time that we talk about something of a person of color, we got to change the subject or put it back around. I'm just going to say it as it is. Okay. Right. As the guy in the chat room saying right now, that's like my car note being due, and I want to talk about paying a light bill. No, your car note's due. That's what we're talking about right now. If I'm talking about cancer, we're not talking about herpes. We're not talking about AIDS. We're talking about cancer. Okay. If I'm talking about Puerto Rico, we're talking about Puerto Rico. We can talk about 20 different subjects and do 20 different things at one time. But the problem is every time that we come to an activist, or we talk about police misconduct, or we talk about Black Lives Matter, the first thing that has to be said is black on black crime.
Black on black crime.
Well,
that's why I say that's a myth, because blacks kill each other because we live within close
well,
proximity.
not only that, you have to look at the cause. See, this is the problem when we started off earlier, Saxman. You wasn't with us when we talked about the guns being stolen off the railroad, and we talked about the community getting involved. What is the cause of black on black crime? Okay, it's the breakdown of the family.
It's poverty.
Right. The breakdown of the family, poverty, no jobs, no schools.
100 years ago, when the poor people were Italian and Irish and Jewish immigrants, and all that white on white crime, they were poor kids growing up in the ghettos, and they resorted to crime. Now they've made the mafia and the mob made their fortunes and funneled it off into all types of other endeavors and industries. So now you got poor black people and poor Latino people.
But when you said that, Tom, remember in New York?
What's that?
When the Irish came over and the way the Irish was treated? Okay, that was their poor black people back then,
Mm-hmm.
and that's cool. But Saxman, you know, it's that time. Everybody, Facebook Live, YouTube. Yeah, it's already right there. But Saxman, since we got you on the line, you can go ahead and be the first one to say something to her. But give us a minute.
Is big, I can't lose. Sugar bow down, I'm the next to move, but I'ma stay on the cool, remain on the under, cause like Andre 3000, your boy's ice cold. Ain't no limit to the gimmicks and ways to make money. No limit to the just to act funny when you get that cake, cause you spit that way. They may love you tomorrow when they hate you today, but yo, that's the way the story goes. So I was told, following the rainbow down the yellow brick road. Please believe at the end ain't no pie to go, just some platinum beats from the Cleveland streets.
YouTube, Facebook Live, Snapchat. Thank you for being with us tonight as we get ready to walk up out of here. Next week, we got a big thing for you. We're going to be talking about the disappearance of Terry Williams and Felito Plates out of Florida. We're going to bring that case and open it back up. Saxman, our man on the beat, is sitting here with us. What's up, Sax?
What's up? The next week, I probably won't be there again because I'll be going through my surgery. I'm scheduled for surgery, so I won't be in. Wish me luck. Keep your fingers crossed. Pray for me. Hope everything turns out okay. And I'll come back 100%. But I'm going to be retiring very, 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 very soon. So I won't be the man on beat no more. I'll just be your boy Saxman.
Well, Sax, we wish you all the good luck and everything in your endeavors. And you know you got a home here. Stop the madness. Keep it 100. Tone the Stone. What you going to tell everybody?
Sax, man, we wish you all the best, you know. But I don't want to hear no excuses, man. You know, don't be trying to duck me, man. We'll be back here. Next time around, you be back here, all right, brother? And for all my people out there on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be, they monitoring you, all right? You know they monitoring you, so all I can say is give them something to watch. Give them something worth watching.
Hey, I'm your host, Chanel, right here on Stop the Madness, Keep It 100. You know, we talk about the issues and we try to keep it straight. You heard that young man call in and talk about being a free man, and a lot of people do not want to live up under the rules of our present government, and a lot of people our young millenniums are looking for a change. We have to make a change, people, and the police department can't be the one to make that change for you. You're going to have to get out there and get involved in your community, your rec centers. You're going to have to get into the PTA meetings. You're going to have to get into the schools, and you're going to have to help our kids. Facebook Live, we thank you for being with us, even though you did jump out on us when we started talking about some serious issues, but that's the way it is in America. And to the 5 cities that picked us up, Memphis, be glad that you're with us. I'm your host, Chanel. Until next time, peace, love, and happiness.
You've been listening to Stop the Madness, Keep It 100 on STMK Radio 100.